Hello, and welcome to ICON ATG's Introduction to Use Cases. In this presentation, we'll explain why use cases have become so important in the industry and why they're considered a best practice. We'll cover some primary concepts and talk about what's wrong with the way we have always done it. We'll also cover what use cases are and how they're used to capture requirements. As you can see from these metrics, things have improved, but they're still not all that great. Some of the factors that have played a big part in this success are iterative development and use cases becoming so prominent in our industry. However, things could still be improved. The last bullet point says things may have actually gotten worse in some ways. We might be meeting our budgets and schedules better, but fewer desired features are actually being incorporated into the finished product. Well, let's talk about the reasons some projects fail. The main reasons are a lack of user involvement, incomplete requirements, and changing requirements. Well, the main reasons projects succeed are user involvement, executive management support, and clearer statements of requirements. Are you noticing a trend here? With better user involvement, we'll obtain better requirements, and with better executive management support, we'll be able to get better user involvement. When combined and using a simple requirements development approach, such as use cases, this can only lead to clearer statements of requirements and better success. So what's wrong with traditional software requirements? Well, we've always tried to understand what the business wanted, but IT and the business seem to speak different languages, and communication hasn't always been easy. Requirements were traditionally written as the system must or the system shall type statements. Well, these type statements don't tell us who will use a system or how they're going to use it. It's all from the perspective of the system. This approach often leaves the business with an unclear understanding of what will actually be delivered. Welcome to the use case diagram. These diagrams provide us with a huge amount of information. Let's start with how you read it. The stick figures on the outside represent actors. Actors represent roles that can be fulfilled by either humans or other systems interacting with the system we're building. I know they look like people, but that's just the notation. All actors are represented as stick people. The lines represent communication between the use case and the actor. This communication allows us to document the interaction between the actor and the system. So let's take a look at what we're building. You'd be able to withdraw cash, transfer funds, deposit cash, and perform some maintenance functions. Just from the diagram, we can tell it's an ATM. Now let's look at how valuable this information can really be. If we build an ATM that didn't dispense cash but only allowed for deposits and transfers, would anyone use it? Probably not. So it's safe to assume that withdraw cash is our biggest business need. We could build this system without being able to transfer funds or deposit funds and still get value. So now we understand our biggest business need. Let's take a look at what else we can learn from the diagram. We might notice a potential technical risk in the interface that needs to communicate with the bank. If we can't successfully build this interface, then the project can't succeed. This is just the diagram, and we can already tell a lot about scope and risk. We've rarely had this type of insight so early into the project from traditional requirements. Actually, some projects never achieve this level of clarity at all. So now that you've seen the use case diagram, well, how do use cases actually define functionality? Well, they represent how humans and other systems will interact with the system we're going to build. They tell us in flows of events how this interaction will occur. If a customer were at an ATM, what would the customer do first? Well, that's right. They would put in their ATM card. And then what would the system do? Well, it would validate that it was actually an ATM card and would ask for the customer's PIN. Then the customer would enter their PIN. Well, that's how use cases document requirements. They give a non-technical approach that everyone can understand and follow. At the same time, they keep in mind the goals of the actor interacting with the system. Actors do have goals, and in this example, the customer's goal at an ATM would be to get cash. So by the end of this flow, that should be accomplished. The use case approach provides us with consensus, clarity, and communication regarding what the system will do. So there should be few surprises when the end product is delivered. Use cases provide a measurable sequence of actions performed by a system that yield an observable result of business value to the actor. This phrase, an observable result of business value, is key when we discuss how use cases are identified. Use cases must result in value to the actor. Place an order, fulfill an order, withdraw cash. Those are all use cases. This picture is a little different from the one you saw previously. This one contains more information. Behind each of the use case bubbles, there are documents called use case specifications. These documents contain the flows I mentioned, as well as some deviations to those flows we haven't covered yet. They also contain other information, including a high-level summary of what will be included in the use case, the goals of the actor, preconditions that have to occur before this use case can start, and other information depending on the template that you're using. Notice in the top right corner there's something called the Use Case Model Survey. The Use Case Model Survey is a collection of things that include detailed actor information about who the actors represent, the use case diagram, the use case inventory, which is a listing of all the use cases contained within the model and their descriptions. This will become the actual use case model and no longer just a use case model survey when we add all the specifications to the use case. Next, we'll take a look at what the use case specification, or flows of events, really look like. Here's a use case specification for withdraw cash. This is a simplified version and not a complete template. The basic flow is identified as Flow A and is named Withdraw Cash by specifying an amount. As you read through the steps, you'll notice that there are business rules appearing within the flow. This makes it easy to see when a rule should be applied, and since rules were meant to be broken, they're generally followed by an alternate flow. When an alternate appears within a step, it means if this condition is true, execute the alternate flow rather than the basic flow. All specifications are in plain English and include no technical details. One of the main benefits of use cases is their ability to communicate with the business as well as all development team members. This slide continues the specification. Specifications written in this manner give the business a say in how the application will work and a view of what will be delivered. If you notice in step 9, there's a business rule. Customer enters withdrawal amount in multiples of 20, and it has no alternate path. This implies the interface will need to be designed in a way that the rule cannot be broken. One way an ATM accomplishes this is by only offering choices in multiples of 20, so there is no way to enter an incorrect amount. If this was an error, though, the subject matter experts will be able to determine this and add an alternate path if they deem it needed. Now you saw all the alternates in the basic flows on the last 2 slides. Well, this is a few examples of how the alternates for withdraw cash could be documented. This example does not contain all possible alternate flows. However, on a real project, all flows would need to be documented. All alternate flows must either end the use case or return to a flow. As you can see in alternate C, you can have alternates off of alternates. These are referred to as nested alternates. There are many benefits to this approach, but the most important is the increase in communication. Everyone may read a use case and they're more likely to understand, comprehend, and validate the information in a more comprehensive way than we would have with traditional requirements. Use case means a case of usage from an actor's perspective. This is a very user-centric design technique which focuses on how someone will use the system. Lastly, it also provides a simple and straightforward style of communication across the project. In this brief presentation, you've learned how use cases are different from traditional requirements techniques, in that they provide the perspective of how and by whom the system will be used. We covered some basic use case concepts and demonstrated how they capture and represent a flow of events. There are additional advanced use case concepts that were not covered in this presentation. We hope you have gained a new perspective and insight for this requirements approach. For information about taking this complete course or courses like it, please go to our website or contact our sales department at 877-484-5465 or 636-530-7776. Also, ask our sales staff about how our consultants can assist in your ramp-up time and help you get started on a path of success with your use case approach.